I was less than 24 hours away from finalizing my wedding plans when my mother stood up in a crowded restaurant and told me I didn't deserve to get married. Then she demanded I hand over $80,000 to my younger brother. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. My name is Daniel Mercer. I'm 35 years old. And until 6 months ago, I believed there was a limit to how much one family could take from a person. I was wrong. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, in a middle-class family that revolved around my younger brother, Tyler. Tyler was 29. Tyler was charming. Tyler was funny. And Tyler had somehow spent his entire life avoiding consequences. If he got bad grades, my parents blamed his teachers. If he lost a job, they blamed his manager. If he maxed out a credit card, they blamed the economy. When I was 16, I worked weekends at a grocery store because I wanted my own car. At 16, Tyler wanted a car too. My parents bought him one. I remember asking why. My mother looked genuinely confused. Because you're responsible, Daniel. Tyler needs more help. That sentence became the motto of my childhood. Daniel is responsible. Tyler needs help. I heard it when I paid for college with scholarships and part-time jobs while my parents emptied their savings for Tyler's business degree. I heard it when I graduated and got an accounting job. I heard it when Tyler quit 3 jobs in 4 years. I heard it when I bought my first condo. And I definitely heard it when I started my own financial consulting firm. By 35, I had built a company with 12 employees and clients across 3 states. I wasn't rich, but I was comfortable. I had a house I loved, money and savings, no debt, and most importantly, I had Emily. Emily Carter was 33 and worked as an architect. She was smart, kind, and possessed an extraordinary ability to recognize nonsense immediately. We'd been together for 4 years, engaged for 1. Our wedding was scheduled for September. I thought life was finally becoming simple. Then Tyler called. Bro, guess what? I was sitting in my office. What? I'm buying a house. I smiled. That's great. It's amazing. 4 bedrooms. Big yard. Congratulations. There was silence. Then, I need 80 grand. I actually laughed. What? For the down payment. I waited. He didn't laugh. You serious? Come on, Daniel. You have money. I leaned back. I have savings. Exactly. No. Silence. You're saying no? Yes. I'm your brother. And you're buying a house you apparently can't afford. He exhaled dramatically. I knew you'd do this. Do what? Act superior. I hung up. I thought that was the end of it. I should have known better. 3 hours later, my mother called. You need to help your brother. No. Why not? Because I don't owe him $80,000. You have it. I laughed again. She was serious. Mom, that's our wedding fund. You can postpone a wedding. I sat up. What? You can get married later. Tyler needs this opportunity now. I thought I had misunderstood. You want me to postpone my wedding so Tyler could buy a bigger house? Don't make it sound selfish. I actually looked around my office because I needed to make sure I was still in reality. Mom, it is selfish. She became angry immediately. You've always been jealous of your brother. I nearly dropped my phone. Jealous. I had spent 35 years hearing new versions of that sentence. Apparently succeeding where Tyler failed made me jealous. I refuse again. She hung up. The next morning, she sent 16 text messages. Then my father called. Then Tyler called twice. Then my aunt called. By evening, half my family somehow knew I was refusing to help my struggling brother. Struggling. The man made almost $90,000 a year. 2 days later, my mother invited everyone to dinner. She said she wanted to resolve things peacefully. Emily didn't want to go. Neither did I. But I still believed these people were my family. So we went. There were 22 people at the restaurant. Parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, Tyler and his girlfriend. Everyone. I should have left the second I walked in. Because sitting in that private dining room, I realized this wasn't dinner. It was an intervention. And I was the target. Halfway through appetizers, my mother stood up, tapped her glass. and looked directly at me. Everyone is here because Daniel is making a terrible mistake. The room went silent. Emily slowly put down her fork. I suddenly had a very bad feeling. Then my mother smiled and said, Daniel has $80,000 sitting in the bank while his brother's dream is falling apart. I think we all need to convince him to do the right thing. 22 pairs of eyes turned toward me, and that's when I realized they had all come expecting me to write a check. Nobody spoke for about 5 seconds. Then my Uncle Greg cleared his throat. I mean, if you already have the money, maybe helping your brother isn't unreasonable. I stared at him. You want me to give him $80,000? It's family. There it was, the magic word. Family. The word people use when they want something expensive. Across the table, Tyler looked sad and defeated, like he was a victim. I almost admired his commitment to the role. My mother continued, Tyler found a perfect house. If he loses it, another family will buy it. Emily finally spoke. So? The room turned toward her. My mother blinked. So? It would devastate him. Emily nodded slowly. And postponing our wedding wouldn't devastate Daniel? Silence. My mother actually looked confused. Well, it's different. How? Because a wedding can happen anytime. I looked at her. You really believe that? She crossed her arms. I do. Tyler chimed in. You can literally get married next year. I laughed. He frowned. What's funny? You. His face darkened. I've supported myself since I was 18. I've worked 60-hour weeks. I've missed vacations. I've sacrificed relationships and opportunities to build my company. I pointed at him. You've changed jobs 6 times in 8 years. That has nothing to do with this. It has everything to do with this. My mother cut in. Stop attacking your brother. I'm not attacking him. Then why are you bringing up his mistakes? I couldn't believe this conversation. Emily reached under the table and squeezed my hand. I didn't realize how angry I was becoming. Then my cousin Megan spoke. I don't know 80,000 is a lot. I almost thanked her. Then she continued, but maybe you could lend it to him. I stared at her. With what collateral? What? What exactly is he putting up in exchange? Tyler looked offended. I'm your brother. That's not collateral. Several people exchanged uncomfortable looks. My father finally spoke. Daniel, your mother and I have helped you too. I looked at him. When? He blinked. What do you mean when? When exactly did you help me? Silence. You raised me. You raised Tyler too. My father frowned. That's different. I almost laughed. Different. Everything was always different. I looked around the table. I paid for college. Nobody spoke. I paid my own rent. Silence. I started my company with my savings. Still silence. I looked at my parents. What exactly did you pay for? Neither answered. Emily suddenly sat forward. You know what I find interesting? My mother looked annoyed. What? You all keep talking about Daniel's money. So, but nobody has asked whether he wants to give it. My aunt looked surprised. Well, no. Emily nodded. Exactly. She looked around the table. You're discussing his savings as if they already belong to Tyler. Nobody spoke, because she was right. They weren't asking. They were allocating. Then my mother sighed dramatically. Emily, you don't understand our family. Emily smiled politely. No, I understand it perfectly. The room became quiet. She looked at my parents. You spent 35 years teaching Daniel that his needs matter less than Tyler's. My mother looked offended. That's ridiculous. Is it? She pointed toward me. Who paid for college? I did. Who paid for his first car? I did. Who paid for his business? I did. Who paid for his condo? I did. Actually, that last one wasn't true. I looked at my mother. You bought Tyler's condo. She looked uncomfortable. Emily looked confused. You did. My mother shrugged. He needed somewhere to live. Emily blinked. You bought him a condo? My father cleared his throat. It wasn't that expensive. I stared. I had no idea. Tyler suddenly looked at his plate. I felt something shift inside me. What condo? Nobody answered. I looked at Tyler. What condo? He still didn't answer. Then my father sighed. We helped him buy a place after college. How much? Silence. How much? My mother finally answered. 70,000. The room went completely quiet. I stared at her. You gave him $70,000? She nodded. And now you're asking me for 80? Nobody spoke. I suddenly understood. This wasn't an emergency. This wasn't about fairness. This wasn't even about the house. They simply believed Tyler deserved financial help. And I didn't. I looked at my father. Did it ever occur to you to give me $70,000? Silence. No. More silence. I nodded slowly. Then I smiled, and my mother relaxed because she thought she was winning. She had seen that smile before. She thought I was giving in. She couldn't have been more wrong. I stood up. Daniel, my mother asked. I pulled out my wallet, removed my credit card, placed it beside my plate. What are you doing? I looked at her. Paying for dinner. She frowned. Then I looked around the room. And after tonight, I'm done financing this family. The entire table froze. My mother laughed nervously. Don't be dramatic. I looked directly at her. I'm not being dramatic. I looked at Tyler. You want a bigger house? He said nothing. Earn it. His face turned red. Then I looked back at my parents. And don't ever ask me to postpone my wedding again. I turned toward the door. Then my mother's voice cracked through the room. If you walk out that door, don't expect us at your wedding. I stopped. The room went silent. Slowly, I turned around. My mother looked completely serious. My father wasn't stopping her. Tyler looked hopeful. They were actually doing it. They were giving me an ultimatum. Give your brother $80,000 or lose your family. I looked at Emily. She looked absolutely furious. Then she looked at me and smiled, a very calm smile. She stood up beside me and said, I think it's finally time to tell them. I frowned. Tell them what? She looked directly at my parents and said something that made every person at the table go completely silent. Daniel already paid for this family once. The room went completely silent. I looked at Emily. What are you talking about? She looked at me. You never told them? I frowned. Told them what? She sighed. Then she turned toward my parents. I can't believe he protected you for this long. My mother looked confused. Protected us from what? Emily crossed her arms. The reason Daniel started working at 14. I blinked. Emily. No. She looked at me gently. They should know. I suddenly felt sick because I knew exactly where this was going. And I didn't want to do this. Not here. Not like this. But it was too late. Emily looked at my parents. Who remembers the year your business nearly failed? My father's expression changed. That was 20 years ago. His construction company had almost gone bankrupt. I remembered every second of it. The late-night arguments. The unpaid bills. The collection notices. I remember my mother crying in the kitchen because they couldn't make the mortgage payment. I remembered being 14 years old and terrified we were going to lose our house. My father nodded slowly. What about it? Emily looked around the room. Did any of you know that Daniel emptied his college savings account? Silence. My father frowned. What? He gave you the money. Nobody moved. My mother looked confused. No, he didn't. Emily stared at her. Yes, he did. I looked at my plate because suddenly I couldn't look at anyone. My father laughed nervously. That's impossible. No. Emily's voice was calm. It's true. I closed my eyes. I hadn't thought about that account in years. My grandfather had started it when I was born. By 14, it had almost $30,000 in it. It was supposed to pay for college. Then my parents nearly lost everything. I remembered hearing them argue at midnight. I remembered hearing my mother say, I don't know what we're going to do. I remembered lying awake and making a decision. The next morning, I had walked into the kitchen and handed my father the account information. I can still hear him. What's this? My college fund. Why are you giving it to me? Use it. He had stared at me. No, take it. Daniel, you said we might lose the house. I remember my mother crying. I remember my father refusing. I remember insisting. Eventually, he accepted. I had forgotten many things about that year, but I never forgot the look on his face. I looked up. Everyone at the table was staring at me. My father looked pale. That money? I nodded. You used it. No. His voice shook. I paid that back. I frowned. No, you didn't. I did. No. He looked confused. I replaced it. My mother suddenly gasped. My father looked at her. Then realization slowly spread across his face. He looked at me, then at my mother, then back at me. You told me you deposited it. Silence. My mother's face went white. Oh no. My stomach dropped. My father stared at her. You told me you put the money back. She couldn't speak. 22 people watched. You said his account was restored. Tears suddenly filled her eyes. Richard, answer me. She looked terrified. She looked at me, then at the table. Finally, she whispered, I used it. Silence. Nobody breathed. You what? She started crying. I used it. My father looked like he didn't understand the words. For what? She looked down. For Tyler. The room exploded. What? My father shouted. She jumped. He needed tutoring. $30,000? He had expenses. $30,000? She cried harder. He wanted to transfer schools. He needed a car. I couldn't move. I genuinely couldn't move because I had never known. Not once in 20 years had I known. I always assumed the money was gone. I never blamed anyone. I had simply gotten scholarships and worked my way through school. But my father thought he'd fixed it, and my mother had never told either of us. He looked devastated. He looked at Tyler. Did you know this? Tyler looked horrified. No. Did you know? I swear I didn't. I believed him. For once, I actually believed him. My father sat down heavily. He looked old, much older than he had an hour earlier. Then he looked at me. I didn't know. I nodded slowly. I know. No. His voice broke. I didn't know. I nodded again, because honestly, I believe him too. He looked like a man discovering he'd failed his son twice. First by taking the money, then by never realizing it was never returned. My mother kept crying. I'm sorry. Nobody answered. I was going to replace it. Silence. I just needed time. I almost laughed. 20 years. Apparently she needed 20 years. Then she looked at me. Daniel, I'm sorry. I didn't answer, because suddenly everything made sense. The favoritism, the excuses, the constant pressure to give more. She'd been justifying that decision for 20 years. If I succeeded on my own, then taking my future to help Tyler had been worth it. She needed that story, needed it desperately, because the alternative was admitting she'd stolen one son's future to make life easier for another. Then my father looked at me and asked a question that changed everything. How much did college cost you? I looked at him. A lot. How much? I named the number. The entire table went silent again, because with tuition, loans, and years of working 2 jobs, I had paid almost 4 times what that original account would have covered. My father slowly looked at my mother, then at Tyler, then back at me, and in a voice I'd never heard before, he said, My God. He stood up, reached into his jacket, pulled out his checkbook, and said, I'm paying it back. My mother looked shocked. Richard, I'm paying every cent. Dad, I said, but he wasn't looking at me. He was looking at my mother, and I suddenly realized something. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about betrayal. And for the first time in my entire life, my father wasn't angry at me. He was furious at her. Nobody moved. My father was still standing. The checkbook was in his hand. My mother looked terrified. Richard, please sit down. No. His voice was calm. Too calm. That somehow made it worse. He looked at her like he was seeing a stranger. You took our son's college fund. I was going to put it back. When? She didn't answer. After a month? A year? 20 years. Tears streamed down her face. The room was silent. My father turned to me. How did you pay for school? I shrugged. Scholarships. Student loans. Jobs. What jobs? I almost smiled. There were too many to count. I stocked shelves at a grocery store, delivered pizzas, worked at the campus library, tutored accounting students. His face fell further. All at the same time? Sometimes. Nobody spoke. I remembered those years. Studying until 2 in the morning, sleeping 4 hours, working weekends, skipping spring breaks because I couldn't afford them. I had never thought of myself as unlucky. It was simply my life. Then my father asked quietly, "You did all of that because your college fund was gone?" I nodded. He looked like he might be sick. Then he sat down. For almost a minute, nobody said anything. Finally, my mother whispered, "I thought he would be okay." I looked at her. She was crying again. "You were always so responsible." There it was, the sentence, the one I'd heard my entire life. "You're responsible. Tyler needs more help." I almost laughed. Instead, I asked, "So, because I was responsible, I deserve less?" She looked horrified. "No." "Then explain it." "I can't." "Try." She wiped her eyes. "I knew you'd figure things out." I nodded slowly. "And Tyler?" He struggled. "So your solution was to take from me and give to him." I didn't think of it like that. "How did you think of it?" She couldn't answer. The silence was answer enough. Then Tyler spoke, for the first time in nearly 15 minutes. "Mom, why didn't you tell me?" She looked at him. "I didn't want you to feel guilty." He stared at her. "Guilty?" He laughed once. A broken laugh. "I should feel guilty." "No, sweetheart." "Stop." Everyone looked at him. He looked exhausted. 30 years old. Successful job. Nice clothes. But suddenly, he looked like a little boy. "Stop calling me sweetheart." My mother blinked. "I didn't ask for this." She nodded desperately. "I know." "No, I don't think you do." He looked at me, then back at her. "I thought Daniel just had everything under control." Nobody spoke. "I thought he didn't need help." He swallowed. "You made it sound like he didn't care." I looked at him. I honestly didn't know what to say. He looked at me. "I'm sorry." I blinked. "What?" He looked miserable. "I'm sorry." Silence. I believed everything. The room had become surreal. In 35 years, I had never heard my brother apologize. Ever. He rubbed his face. "Do you know why I wanted the house?" I frowned. He laughed softly. "I wanted to prove I was successful." Nobody moved. "I wanted something bigger than yours." I stared. He looked embarrassed. "That's pathetic, isn't it?" I didn't answer. He looked down. "I've been competing with you my entire life." I blinked. Competing? I had no idea there was a competition. I thought Mom and Dad loved me more because I was special. His voice cracked. "But now?" He looked at our mother. "I think they loved me more because they were afraid I'd fail." Nobody spoke. He looked at me again. "And I hated you for being okay without them." I genuinely didn't know how to process any of this. Then Emily stood. She walked over to me, took my hand, and looked at my family. "Can I ask everyone a question?" Nobody answered. She didn't wait. "When was the last time anyone asked Daniel what he wanted?" Silence. "When was the last time anyone celebrated his success?" Nothing. "When was the last time anyone simply showed up for him?" Still nothing. She nodded. "Exactly." Then she looked at my parents. "Do you know why he doesn't ask you for anything?" My father looked up. "Why?" "Because he stopped expecting anything from you years ago." That one landed. Hard. My father's eyes filled. My mother started crying again. Because it was true. I never called for help. Never asked for money. Never asked for advice. I had learned not to. I simply built my life around the absence. Then Emily squeezed my hand and smiled at me. A small, sad smile. She turned back toward everyone. And yet, she looked around the room. Even after everything, She reached into her purse, pulled something out, and placed it on the table. It was an envelope. I frowned. "What is that?" She smiled. "Your wedding invitations." I looked confused. She looked directly at my parents. "I never planned to keep you away." My mother stared. "What?" Emily nodded. "Daniel wanted to invite all of you." I looked at her. She smiled again. "He didn't tell you because he thought you'd say no." The room went silent. I felt my face get warm, because she was right. I had ordered invitations for everyone. Every single person in this room. Even after everything. I just hadn't mailed them yet. My father looked stunned. "You still wanted us there?" I looked down, then back at him. "You're my family." My mother's hand flew to her mouth. She burst into tears. Because after everything they'd done, I still wanted them at my wedding. Then my father slowly stood. He looked at me, at Emily, at the invitations, and then at my mother. When he spoke, his voice was shaking. "I think we spent 35 years loving the wrong way." Nobody moved. Then he looked at me and said something I never thought I'd hear. "Son, if you'll let me, I'd like to start fixing it." And for the first time all night, I didn't know what to say. Nobody spoke. My father stood there waiting for an answer. For the first time in my life, I had all the power. I could say no. I could walk away. I could remind him of every birthday he forgot, every achievement he ignored, every moment he chose my brother over me. Part of me wanted to, but then I looked at him, really looked at him. He looked exhausted, older, smaller somehow. I realized something. I wasn't looking at the man who raised me. I was looking at a man who had just discovered he'd spent decades getting it wrong. I took a deep breath. "I don't know." My father nodded. He looked like he'd expected that answer. "I understand. I don't know how to fix 11 years. I don't know how to undo being the backup child." His eyes filled with tears. "I know." I looked at my mother. She looked completely broken. "I don't know how to trust that this isn't temporary." She nodded slowly. "I know." Silence. Then I looked at both of them. "But I also don't want to spend the rest of my life angry." Nobody moved. I looked down at the invitations. I had bought them 2 months ago. 28 invitations. I had addressed every envelope myself, including my parents, because despite everything, I still wanted them there. I just didn't think they wanted to be there. I picked up one of the envelopes and handed it to my father. His hand shook. He stared at it, then at me. "You still want us to come?" I exhaled. "I want parents at my wedding." He burst into tears. My mother started crying even harder. Even my aunt wiped her eyes. My father looked at the invitation like it was the most valuable thing he'd ever held. Then he whispered, "We'll be there." I nodded. My mother looked at me. "Can I ask you something?" "Okay." "Why didn't you hate us?" I actually thought about it. Then I smiled a little. "Because I got busy." She blinked. I looked around the room. I got busy building company, making friends, falling in love, building a life. I looked at Emily. And somewhere along the way, I stopped waiting for your approval. Silence. I turned back to my mother. "I didn't forgive you because what happened was okay." She looked down. "I forgave you because carrying around became too heavy." Nobody said anything. Then something unexpected happened. Tyler stood up. He walked around the table, stopped in front of me, and held out his hand. I stared at it. "I've been a terrible brother." I didn't answer. He laughed nervously. "I think I knew it too." I looked at him. "I spent years believing I deserved more than you." He shook his head. "I didn't." The room was completely silent. Then he said something I never expected. "I don't want the 80,000. I frowned. "What?" "I don't want it." He looked embarrassed. "I don't even want that house anymore." "What do you want?" He thought about it. Then he looked at me. "I think I want to figure out who I am without everyone rescuing me." Nobody spoke. My father slowly sat down. He looked emotionally exhausted. "So this is my fault too." Tyler looked at him. "No." "Yes." He shook his head. "I made excuses." He looked at our mother. We both did. Mom covered her face. For a long time, nobody moved. Then Emily squeezed my hand. I looked at her. She smiled. "You okay?" I laughed softly. "No." She laughed too. "Me neither." Then she looked at the table. "But I think this is the first honest family dinner you've ever had." To my surprise, everyone laughed. Even my mother. The tension broke. Just like that, dinner finally arrived. The food was cold. Nobody cared. For the next 2 hours, we talked. Really talked. My father asked about my business. My mother asked about our wedding plans. My aunts asked how Emily and I met. Tyler asked if I would show him how I started my company. At one point, he looked genuinely embarrassed. "Can I ask you stupid questions?" I laughed. "Absolutely." "Okay." He smiled. "I probably have a lot of them." For the first time in years, we actually felt like brothers, not best friends, not magically healed, just brothers. 3 months later, I got married. My parents came. My father cried during my vows. My mother cried during the first dance. Tyler somehow cried during both, then embarrassed himself by denying it. At the reception, my father pulled me aside. He handed me an envelope. I frowned. "What is this?" "A check." I looked at him. "Dad, please." I opened it. $30,000. The exact amount from my college fund. I stared at it. "You don't have to do this." He smiled sadly. "I know." I looked at him, then at the check, then back at him. After a long moment, I handed it back. His eyes widened. "What?" I smiled. "You keep it." "Daniel, I already built my life." He looked confused. "I don't need the money." I looked around the reception, at my wife, at my family, at the people dancing. I already have everything I wanted. My father started crying again. Apparently, that became a habit. A year has passed. Things aren't perfect. They probably never will be, but they're better. Mom goes to therapy. Dad retired and volunteers twice a week. Tyler bought a smaller house that he could actually afford. And every Sunday, he comes over for dinner. Sometimes he asks business questions. Sometimes he just wants to hang out. As for me, I'm still running my company. I'm still happily married. And every now and then, I look around at my life and think about that night. The night my family asked me to postpone my wedding to buy my brother a house. At the time, it felt like the ultimate betrayal. Now I think of it differently, because that ridiculous request finally forced everyone to tell the truth. And sometimes the thing that breaks a family is also the thing that gives it one last chance to become honest. I never gave my brother $80,000. But that night, I gave my family something far more valuable, a chance to stop pretending and finally start over.